Good day, it's Tuesday. That means it's the Fair Green here on sportsdaz.ie, our weekly feature with a current or past player about their playing career. And also they get to pick the peers that have impressed him both for and against. Well, needless to say, our guest this week is in a 2020 she will never forget. Joint captain of Armagh, All-Ireland Premier Junior Camogie champions, ending a 27-year wait, and an All-Ireland success based in recent years they probably thought would never come. She came back after taking a career break, was in Australia for 4 years to spearhead the Orchard County's revival. I'm delighted to say my guest this week at the Fair Green is Armagh Camogie captain Orlagh Murray. And first, Orlagh, welcome to the Fair Green.
Thank you very much.
Orlagh, we've had a bit of time now. It's over a month since the All-Ireland final. When you get a chance to take it all in now, what comes back to you that you finally got that All-Ireland title? It looked like it was never going to come.
Yeah, no, definitely. After such a bad year, I think there, even on New Year's Day, I think a lot of us even thought, God, what a year it was for us, even though it was a bad year for people's health and the COVID and all that there. But that will always stand out for us, and a remarkable year it will be for us.
It was a fantastic game of camogie from both yourselves and Cavan as well. End to end, you were banging over points with Gira and Leanne. Cavan were hitting back for goals. They came very, very close to forcing the replay at the end. Like, needless to say, in any final, but in particular this final, you earned your crust over the 60-odd minutes.
Oh, definitely. I nearly thought at the end that it was only a point in it. And the ball was very much down in their half for the last 5 minutes of the game. As us as players, it was very nail-biting. We were literally trying just to get over that edge and nearly counting down the clock. But definitely Cavan were just unbelievable. They had their homework done on us, and vice versa, we had our homework done on them. Just they got in for goals. They're so crucial around that full forward line. It's just, they're lethal, just lethal weapons up there, so they do. But we were so lucky on the day that the two Donnelly girls performed so well for us. We were able to get the balls into them, and they were able to put them no bother over the bar.
Orlagh, I'm going to go into the 2020 campaign a bit more in a bit. First, I have to ask the question. You said in some interviews too that it was so weird this year. Your dad, Mickey, couldn't be out to watch the matches as well. No doubt you've had a chance to spend plenty of time with him since you won the All-Ireland. What were his thoughts on your season and your victory?
Yeah, he was absolutely delighted. It brought so much joy to everybody across the county. Even coming home that night, he was able to come home for the homecoming, even by himself and being safe and all that there. But it was just coming home to your families and seeing that just pride and happiness again in people's faces. Even our goalkeeper, Gary Devon, had an awful hard year with her daddy passing, and just seeing that family being together and being so happy was just something else.
It's different this year because with COVID-19, we can't have the homecomings like usual. I know there were people out to wish you the best luck when you came home and all that, through in safe distance and all that. But for the players, did it allow you to appreciate it a bit more because you got a chance to be with your families more most that night, but definitely by the Sunday night, I should say?
Yeah, well, definitely. I think even you appreciate being able to go out and play a sport, even going out to them trainings in a really, really cold winter's night. It was even that good to get out. Everybody else was locked up, and we had the privilege to actually go out and enjoy training and enjoy getting ready for the match, and definitely coming home and seeing just everybody so happy, and it lifted everyone for so long. People are even still talking about it. It's just what Armagh County needed, and that's what people's families and everything needed here.
And it was because after being in the All-Ireland final in 2016, I think it's fair to say results were not going Armagh's way the following 3 years too. And at the start of the campaign, and I know there was the issue with the second teams from other counties in A, B and C, but you would have believed it yourselves, no doubt. But outside of Armagh, not many people would have been marking you down as potential All-Ireland champions.
Yeah, well, we knew we had a lot of work to do, still very much even at the minute. We know we're not fully connected yet as a team. We are getting there, and we have to just keep progressing. We have a young team, and we have to keep together and progress for now 2021. But definitely this past few years we had the players, but it just wasn't clicking. And maybe it is too that we were up against stronger oppositions. So hopefully again this year we'll be able to go again into the junior and progress to stronger teams, etc. as well.
We'll come back to all that in a bit. Let's talk about yourself first and foremost, Orlagh. Let's talk about how you started off in camogie first. Like, Armagh's not considered a hurling camogie stronghold, even though there's a lot of passionate people who've been promoting the game for both the men and the women for many, many years. And we've touched on 1993 already. How did you first get into playing the game?
I had really no choice. I'm the youngest out of 9, and there's 5 girls in our house, so I'm the youngest. But my older sister was took away at a young age to learn how to play camogie, and it was just nearly inbred in us. From as soon as you knew it was a girl, the camogie stick was nearly inside the cot. And my daddy was chairperson for our club in Keady here for a long time, and my mummy and daddy followed camogie and sport, all kinds of sport, all over. So very much literally embedded in me to play sport. And even now, like my wee nieces and stuff, they've no choice. The camogie jersey's the first buy, and the curly stick's the first thing once there's a newborn baby. So there is.
I suppose we were talking about Mickey at the start. I shouldn't have even asked that question. It was neat, but no doubt you developed the graw for it very, very quickly when you got out playing for the club.
Yeah, even for the club, you develop a family. It's an extended family, and everybody around the town. All clubs are the same. It's such a unit. And even going over to Australia too, it was such a unit. It was a family. People looked out for each other, and I think sport is so crucial to every child's growing up. It is so important, and you develop and you grow so much more as a person.
The year before you went to Australia, 2012, Keady were county senior camogie champions. You beat Tullysaran 186 points in that occasion. And you've said yourself too that I suppose maybe it's just how competitive it is in Armagh. It didn't happen in 2020. But did you know at the time of that game that you might be considering going away?
I think I actually did, yeah. I sort of had always had in my head once I finished university I would go away. Because I know once you get into a job here, it'd be actually a wee bit harder to leave. So it's always in my head, finish university and get away for even a year or two. I didn't think it was going to be 4 years. But yeah, I didn't think now I'd be leaving and coming back, and Keady were getting beat now. But we just are in that transition kind of period. And the girls have done so well, even that the 4 years that I was away, they were always reaching nearly the championship finals. The competition here in Armagh camogie is unbelievable. You're not guaranteed for a 3-4 year row and to go together. There's teams coming out of nowhere. Like Greenmore came up there a couple of years ago and got 3 in a row. They hadn't won a club championship, and they've literally been obviously doing their work from an underage level and bringing it right up. It is brilliant, and sometimes it is disheartening because you're so used to winning, but it's great for the county to see that there's such competition.
We previewed the Armagh Camogie Championship this year as well. I personally thought even with COVID it was cruel to have a straight knockout competition. Yeah. As you said there too, Tullysaran, who you have a great rivalry built up over the years. Going back to your pre-Australia part of the career as well, you went on and lost to, I think, the Ballycran by a point in the Ulster final as well. But this was a team that I suppose you reckoned as being so a young team as well that you were seriously going places.
Oh, well, definitely. Keady would have the repetition of our older generation of girls that would have went to Ulsters and won Ulsters and went to All-Ireland finals. We had a few girls that were still in that panel that would have went on to the All-Ireland finals. And even just having them as experienced players and progressing, we did, in our eyes, we should have won it that year, but it just wasn't meant to be.
I'll move on anyway, Orla. Before you went to Australia, I'm not going to ask you what age you are, but is your birthday in May?
Yeah, it is.
What did you do for your 21st?
I had a marquee at the house, at my sister's house actually, and just a few friends. The worst thing is it goes against like all GCSEs, A-levels. Well, that was my 18th. Sorry, that was actually my 18th. But my 21st, did I even spend it here?
I was just wondering, something to do with greyhound racing in Dundalk?
Oh, I think that was my friend. That was my sister. Sorry, that was hers. Yeah, her 21st or 18th, I think it was.
No, because I have a note here from May 2013, a greyhound racing card in Dundalk, Orlagh Murray's 21st birthday race.
Oh, right. Maybe it was. I can't even remember back.
I was just wanted to first check, was that yourself? So do you remember the race, or do you remember somebody doing that? Or
yeah, I actually think remember it now. I'm nearly getting mixed up between my 18th and 21st, but my 21st I went out with friends, and then we did, as a family, we went to the Dundalk Greyhounds. So we did. Do
you remember the name of the dog that won your race?
Oh no. I definitely don't.
Sad Bean was the winner. It was
I don't think anybody got a winner that night.
It was just a pure random. I happened to spot it, so I had to ask you. Definitely wasn't yourself. That was in May 2013. Australia, when did Australia happen?
I went to Australia in October 2013, yeah.
And of course, as you said there, you kind of knew you were going to do it after you finished college and all that. How you talked about the importance of sport already. Like, did you manage to keep involved with camogie in Australia or other sports, or how did you fill the outlet?
Yeah, I played sports over in Australia. In Melbourne I lived, and I played for the Shamrocks, and then played also state for Victoria. So it's unreal. Everyone out there is such a family, and going out now, it's good, even say 45 to 50 minutes out to Gaelic Park most Sundays with a hangover. Wasn't too easy now, but it was like, it's great, and you're trying to mix in with people from all over Ireland. You've playing with people from Cork, Galway, and then you've ones from up north as well. It is first class, and anyone that's going over there, I would recommend that they get involved in the team, because you'll always have that support behind you too.
And it's even anytime we're talking to anybody that has gone abroad, whether it's Australia, America, or anywhere else, it's the one of the first stories that always comes is when they get to link up with a team or build that bond as well. And even as you talk now, 4 years on, you said that already you didn't expect to be gone for 4 years, but they're 4 years that you wouldn't change, no doubt.
No, definitely not. I loved every minute of it.
Now, there was one moment in 2016 when you were away from home that you would have wished you were a bit closer, and that was the last year that Armagh made a serious imprint on the national scene. There had been coming for a couple of years beforehand, and everything seemed to be going right in 2016. There was a league title. I can't remember the league title was 15 or 16, but there was an All-Ireland final appearance. Being away from home, your memories on watching that game in particular?
Oh, I was just so proud of the girls. Ciara actually was captain of that team at the in 2016. They've done themselves so proud. In my eyes, we were up in the middle of the night watching it, and I really, really did think they had it. But unfortunately, just wasn't meant to be on that day. But they've done themselves so proud, so they did.
Did it kind of light the fire in you? I know you didn't come home for another year, but would it have lit the fire in you to kind of go, I want a piece of that game whenever I come back to Ireland?
Yeah, well, anybody I was talking to back here were all going to the game and all going to Croke Park, having a big day out in Dublin. There was bus loads of people going from everywhere. It was just what we wanted, and always to get that recognition as a camogie team too is absolutely amazing.
It looked like Armagh were going to make that breakthrough. Just on the day, Carlo, everything fell into place for them, and they put in a fantastic performance. And even Carlo people would agree there wasn't, I think it was 8 or 9 points in it. There wasn't the difference between the two teams based on what they could do. You came home, got back playing club, and how long before you got back playing county?
Straight away. So as I got the rap in the door to go back to county as well, I was like, oh, so yeah.
The modern age there, it was well known you were on the way back.
Yeah.
After watching that 2016 final away from home, and then you just couldn't seem to build on it too. No doubt it tested the resolve of keeping the panel together. I know there'll be changes every year, the natural evolution of a squad, but was it kind of getting frustrating as well that it just wasn't happening for you?
Yeah, I think a lot of girls too are, even at the minute, a lot of girls have retired from playing 2016. They were very hurt, probably going in with such a late at half time, then coming out and getting beat. It was very devastating on them, and for it to happen in Croke Park too, I always say, like, Croke Park's the field of dreams, but it's the loneliest field if you ever get beaten it. So them girls were extremely hurt, and they were trying to keep pulling back this past few years, but it just really wasn't working.
No, and as well, because I remember following the team in particular around that 15, 16, 17 mark, and then suddenly you started losing to teams that you wouldn't have normally lost. And I suppose the team was transitioning as well. As you've already mentioned, there was only 9 players, I think, from the panel between 16 and 20 as well. And it tests everybody's commitment and grow to keep it going, knowing that you have the ability to turn it around.
Yeah, well, girls like Ciara left and went to Qatar, and we lost Bernie Murray too. She went to Qatar. Bernie's actually home now, but didn't come back to county as yet. So it is girls, and you can't give that away from girls too. Girls do have to travel. Camogie can't be absolutely everything. There's such a big world out there. But this year it just clicked. It just clicked that girls were able to play county and club. So club first and then county. So that really worked for us. So girls weren't feeling that they were pulled from both directions at the same time. The split season definitely really helped us for this year, so it did.
It's just to go off topic for a moment, I suppose it's a frustrating thing in one way, even though nothing's confirmed based on what's going on in the world. But it doesn't appear like we're going to have a split season in Camogie this year. And I've yet to meet one person who thinks that's a good idea.
Yeah, I don't understand it. I actually just heard that this morning. So the football, the GAA, I think, is going split season, but Camogie isn't. I think a lot of girls will be very trying to understand why it worked. And I know, yes, it's a longer year for the girls that are playing county, but it gives yourself that bit of opportunity to focus on your club first. And club, in my eyes, always does come first, because without your club, you wouldn't have a county. So it's a tricky one. And even I think the way they're going to do it this year is that county goes first, if for some places, which is a lot harder even for clubs. Clubs don't have the financial support for winter training, etc., and the facilities.
Yeah, because we all just worked off the assumption that whether it was county or club first or not, they would be in their own calendars. So even July, for example, or August would have been the latest for the club to have the players if it panned out that way. Now, of course, this is all subject to change. By the time this podcast goes out, it could have changed again. But as you going back to the reason I brought that point up, as you were talking to start, let's go back to the league first. 12 months ago, and the first day out against Down, the panel hadn't really been fully together yet. And I suppose it's fair to say that not many people would have left that game against Down with much confidence for Armagh's fortunes in 2020.
Oh, well, definitely. And even we played the Ulster final against Down, and Down beat us on that day too. Now, it was a tough one. It was a tough match. Even on that day, I don't think we even clicked as a team. We did have the beating of Down, but we just couldn't do it on the day. And there has been a lot of changes from the team to going into the championship and just getting the positions right. And even the lack of training this year. I know, yes, you've had your split season, but you've had lack of training together because you're nearly straight into matches. But that all, it's just a very strange year, and we were just lucky to play.
As it turned out, certain players came home. We talked about Ciara Donnelly plenty of times and again as well. And by the time the summer's coming around, things are looking more positive. Now, first, you had the club championship. I know it didn't go well for Keady, beaten in the opening round. I think there was a league. Was there a league beforehand as well? So at least there were some games.
Yeah, there was a league. So you had 6 games. Just it wasn't really counting to anything, but it was just sort of getting yourself prepared for championship. So it was.
When you finally got back together in September with Armagh, players back, players available that probably hadn't been available before. Before we talk about it, it's been up and down regards who's in, who's out and all that. With Micheál as well in charge and all that, was there a kind of resolve kind of going, you know what, let's just put the head down and we can do something here?
Oh, well, definitely. We started training last November, and even at that time, we knew that the panel that we just had to really, really work to get to where we wanted to be. And then when we came back in September, we had a few more girls back. We had the likes of Ciara home as well. And it was just sitting going, the players are here. It's time to make this happen. It's either going to happen or we're going to lose another one.
There was two groups originally, a group of 4, a group of 3, and a group you would have fancied yourselves if you played well to get into an All-Ireland semi-final at least and take it from there. And I think you were due to play Roscommon when it was pulled the day before, or on the day in particular. And with all the teams out, suddenly there was just yourselves and Roscommon, and you must have wondered, were you going to have a championship at all?
Yeah, we did. Definitely for a few days there, we didn't know what was going on. And we had already beaten Roscommon. And we beat them well, so we knew that it wasn't going to really be much of a competition. That if what happens, like, do we be throughout or do we go up a level? We just didn't know for the few days. But thankfully, then we got clarification.
And thankfully, Camogie Association, they did get there with a vibrant championship, bringing Cavan and Tyrone into the mix. Orlagh, I must say, first, actually, before I talk about that semi-final, of course, I shouldn't forget this, that performance against Roscommon was the wake-up for everyone else. Goes, geez, Armagh mean business this year. You scored 1-1 in that match.
Yeah, no, definitely that match it's in our home ground. It was in the athletic grounds where we'd be used to playing big pitch. It was great. Some with the score taken again that day, and our scores were unbelievable. It was just settling down as a team, and we knew we had that capability, but at the same time we couldn't take too much from it because Roscommon, we were actually quite shocked because Roscommon beat us the year before, but maybe they're going through transition as well. They've lost a lot of players, and we thought it would have been a lot tighter of a game. So it would have.
Yeah, a lot of people would have thought that at the time, but then based on what she did do, a lot of people thought you would have had a much easier job in the semi-final. Now, I know when Armagh play Tyrone and anything, you should never take anything for granted. Before we talk about the game, of course, for yourself personally too, just another sign of COVID-19, you had to self-isolate for a while too, and you really thought you were going to miss out on the match.
Yeah, I was only back a week and maybe a week, 3 training sessions, I think it was. I was back from isolating for 2 weeks. It was tough, yeah, and it was even tough being a sub too. But I was lucky there. Thank God I was there in the day and I was able to come on at half time to help the girls out. It's always a battle between Armagh and Tyrone, no matter what, if it's football, hurling or camogie. But it was great. Like, it was such a battle, and it showed girls' character there on the day too, that who stood up and took the hits and got the ball over the bar, and that was the main thing.
How scary is it? I know you were self-isolating because of a contact, but how scary, I suppose, maybe I should word it differently, how much of an eye-opener is this when you actually have to do that and makes people realise exactly what we're dealing with in the current world?
I actually didn't think it was going to be as hard, but at that time it was 14 days isolation, and we actually had a COVID positive one in the house, so it was very difficult, and it's mentally draining on yourself, and you have to try and keep yourself busy. And even for myself, I was trying to keep myself fit for going back to camogie, but within them 2 weeks I just didn't see no way into it. It was like, when's this ever going to stop? Like, and even at that time the numbers weren't even as bad in the north, but now it would just be crazy. So it is.
For Armagh, thankfully, you did get back and you were back and fit and raring to go, because I was at the other semi-final that day between Cavan and Roscommon. And as I stated already, and no disrespect to our Tyrone listeners, but we expected to be here, ye dancing away to a victory by the time we started tuning into your match. And all of a sudden you're 5 points behind, and this is 3 goals conceded, and this is not going according to plan.
Oh, definitely. We were, even myself on the sideline, I was worrying. I just knew there was more in the girls, and like I had to say, I gave it to Tyrone. Everything, they had their homework done. They were absolutely first class. They dug deep for every single ball. Their hunger would have nearly beat us on the day, definitely. But lucky enough, we had the legs and we had the people to get on from the sideline to give the girls the extra bit of push.
Was it the making of this Armagh team? To say sometimes you need a real scare, and of course you didn't get it against Roscommon the first day. Was it the making of this team? Was that the day you kind of realised, we can turn this around, we can do anything?
Yeah, well, I think to win a match or win an evening in All Ireland, you have to be able to take the hits and come back from big hits, and even taking the scores. No matter what, even the Cavan game was just showed it was point for point, then it was goals. We had to get back up and get there again and get a few more points on the scoreboard. It's never to give up, and that was our intentions, never to give up. We have so much more to give. And even from the Tyrone game, the girls knew themselves in the first half they were not performing. All over nearly the pitch weren't performing, and it was just trying to get that belief back into the girls. It's 30 minutes, it's 0-0 at half time, and we just have to keep going, keep our heads down and keep working hard, and everybody for one ball.
It was a type of game, it could have just pulled the rug under everything, but it didn't. And it created the unusual situation leading into the final. While most pundits, including our regular contributors here, were down the middle on our man Cavan, if anything, more people were probably predicting Cavan, a 4th tier team, to beat Armagh, 3rd tier team in an All-Ireland final. Did you get that perception as well?
Oh, definitely. Everybody was our Cavan going up. And you know what? Maybe that suited us. We knew ourselves that we were good enough to do it. And maybe that's our performance against Tyrone put people's heads in doubts. So definitely we knew, and going in again, I would actually prefer to be underdogs, because you're that wee bit more hungrier for it, and you know you want to prove everybody else wrong.
And you showed that in the game as well. There were some wonderful scores out in the left flank as well. Ciara obviously got the limelight for her 13 points in that particular day too. But it was end to end, because we're talking about scares. We're talking about being under pressure. Like, as we said already at the start of this interview, Cavan would not go away regardless of what she did.
Oh, definitely. Them goals really did kill us. And in a normal game, we would usually score goals. That's what I keep saying. I can't believe that we never actually got a concede. Like, we got a goal that day. And we didn't really look. Yes, we looked a few times that we were going to get goals, especially with our full forward line. It was such a crucial full forward line. It was getting the ball into them and letting them do the work. But Cavan's goals were just something else. So they were.
We've talked already how close they were to denying you again. Final whistle. I ask everybody who wins something this question, but based on your team and the journey to get here, give me the emotions, the feelings, the final whistle.
Oh, I actually just collapsed to the ground. I couldn't believe it because I just didn't think it was over. And I know I was looking and looking at the clock, and I don't even know how. I just thought it was a point in it, but I just kept looking up, going, oh God. And at that stage, I was playing centre half forward, but I was nearly in the full back line because they were going so heavy for goals. And I think we nearly had everyone back except for maybe two players. So it was such a relief. It was just, oh,
I
definitely.
think you were allowed a blanket defence in that particular day.
Yeah, definitely.
As well, Orla, before and we finish up this segment in a couple of moments, I can see the clock getting away from us. We've talked about the going home as well, and of course, getting to spend time with your family and all that. But also, there's a big connection with the current team to the Mammies that were played in '93 and '94 as well. So, no doubt, those people that you would have looked up to as you were growing up got a chance to savour this as well.
Yeah, they were absolutely delighted. I think there was 4 parents in total, and their children were playing. It was amazing. They knew what it was like to win an All Ireland final, so they're so delighted for their children to see that they've got that enjoyment now too, and just so privileged for them.
Now, as we look into 2021, we know at the moment nobody can do any training, and we're hopeful it's not too long. And who knows, by the time this podcast comes out, maybe you'll be back out on the field to play. But was there any part of you at any stage since winning kind of going, we wouldn't mind a crack at intermediate?
We thought about that as soon as we had won, but I think just to get ourselves together and that we're a bit stronger, even physically wise, we need another year down in junior. So we do. I know we would actually, last year we would have came up against Down quite a wee bit for even challenge games, and we know ourselves that they're a different level to us, but that is the level that we need to get up to, and we have to keep progressing, and it's going to take maybe a year, 2 years to get up to that level, I think.
And as well, too, in 2021, you'll have the seconds teams coming back from the senior counties after playing the championship without them and playing championships with them as well. Where would you fall in regards, should they be in these competitions or should they have their own separate competition to allow other counties to flourish?
No, I do think they should be, and that they're as good as us. Realistically, if Armagh had the players from all around the county playing, we would have even a stronger team. But that is down south very strong for that. You always have your best players. You have multiple teams. There a few years ago, Armagh was actually struggling even to get 15. So I do think if you do the hard work, you should be playing.
Well, without a shadow of a doubt, I don't think Armagh will be struggling to have players for 2021. And with the help of God, COVID-19 will gradually move away and we can get back to a new normal. And the next time you and me are talking, we'll be talking about our Armagh Championship or League match sometime over the period. Orla, thanks a million for joining us. We're not done with you yet, though, of course. We have our final segment of the show, the players' favourite moment, because they get to make and break friendships with the Fantastic Four. In a moment, Orla, I'm going to ask you to name the 2 best players you've played with. That can be club, county, college, any criteria you decide yourself. And the 2 best players that you've played against. So, Orla, whenever you're ready, the first player you've played with and why?
It's Keady Donnelly. Her commitment level and just sacrifice for every player in the team. Even with Keir taking a free, if you've won a free, I think she's just a real team player. She'll always look back and say, like, that's your point. And she's a real team player and just a leader on the field. My second would probably be my sister Roisin. She's also very much the same, a leader and a real workhorse. Would just run the field up and down. She just never gives up, and even on good and bad days, I've seen her playing alongside her with bad days, and she just still would keep going. And she knows herself that maybe her performance wasn't on point, but definitely she'd always be there.
And they are 2 prime examples as well of those type of like workhorse leaders, like, you know, practicing what you preach, I think is the way of putting it as well, because there's so many examples in the Camogie panel and even in the football panel as well that had a good 2022, that players like that, you know, set the example and are only asking their teammates to follow what they do.
Yeah, definitely.
So we have Keady Donnelly from Armagh and Orlagh Murray from Armagh, the first 2 picks in Orlagh Murray's Fantastic Four. Now, Orla, it's time for the players that you've been up against. The first player that you played against and why?
Catherine McCooey. She's just deadly first in the mark, strong as a bull, and there's no prisoners with her. She'd take your hand, leg, arm, head off you just to get that ball. There's just no prisoners with her, and that's what you want as a back.
Catherine McCooey, the first pick there for Orlagh. So Orlagh Murray, we have Ciara Donnelly, we have Roisin Murray, and we've Catherine McCooey. Three of your fantastic four. It's time now for your final pick. The second player you played against and why?
Grania Kelly. She's from Greenmore. She would have played for Armagh also. Just an unbelievable reader of the ball. Even if you think you're beside her, you're not. She was away, the ball's away. She's just an unbelievable read of the game, and she covers her line. She hits her back line all the time. She's first class.
And as you mentioned too, another prime example of the Greenmore team that have come up the ladder in recent years as well, and rightfully now put themselves among the top contenders in Armagh Camogie. Well, Orlagh, let's go to your fantastic four again. It's Ciara Donnelly, Roisin Murray, Catherine McCooey, and Grania Kelly. Orlagh, I've enjoyed all our conversations that we've had since we first talked a few months back, and enjoyed this looking back at your career too, and the two different sides of Armagh. But thankfully, your day came, and no doubt there'll be plenty more days for Armagh Camogie in the coming years. With that being said, thank you very much for joining us here in the Fair Green, and the best of luck with everything in 2021.
Yeah, thank you.